CINEMANIA Field Report. Post-Apocalypticism. Welcome to the 80s. It's the dawn of a new century. We're done with all the misery and dullness of the 20th century. From here on out, it's going to be computers, lasers, robots. Truly, the sky is the limit and beyond. We're all going to be living on the moon any day now. Flying cars are just around the corner, and somebody's probably working on the sex bots, pretty sure. Yes, it's a new day in America. Everything is automated. Everything is better. We got to move those microwave ovens. We got to move those color TVs. Reagan is in the White House, and the economy is booming. The music is synthesized. The drugs are just so good, man. And movies are awesome. Oh, these things are totally unrelated to each other, of course. You wouldn't be blamed for thinking the 80s are nothing but pure wall-to-wall radness. A decade of rad to the max. The only thing you maybe need to worry about a little is that the kids are all into D&D, which is probably satanic. Your job is going to get outsourced to Asia, and the Russians have like 1 million nuclear missiles and no sense of humor. Totally rad, though. Radiation warnings everywhere. I'll just burst that happy little bubble for you, because that's what we do here at the CINEMANIA Society. Look closely at those 80s movies, and you'll see a darkness lurking. And I'm not just talking about the loosey-goosey standards on gore and nudity. There's always been anxiety, and it's the job of Hollywood to figure out just what you're anxious about right now and make movies all about it. So what were the 80s really all about, at least according to Hollywood? It has a flavor that might be hidden behind layers of nostalgia and golden-hued good times, but it's still right there at the back of the palette, present through the movies of the age. There it is. Nihilism. Not Fruit Stripe, Tab Clear, or New Coke, not Smurfberry cereal or Pop Rocks, but nihilism was what gave the 80s that signature flavor. So what was so special about the 80s? It was, to quote Dennis Leary, 2 words, nuclear fucking weapons. By the time the 80s rolled around, 2 whole generations had grown up in the shadow of the mushroom cloud, and looming nuclear Armageddon was just a way of life. The hippie movement had collapsed, so that's peace and love out the window. Politicians had shown their true colors in the Nixon era. It could never really be trusted again. And the rapid proliferation of ever larger and more devastating nuclear weapons meant that by 1980, most people had resigned themselves to the idea that sooner or later someone, somewhere, was going to push that big red button. In fact, we came a lot closer to that moment than most people realize. Look up what Stanislav Petrov didn't do in 1983, but have a strong drink handy. I digress.
You? Never!
Suffused as we are in the rehash of 80s media these days, nostalgia takes the edge off that existential dread that suffused daily existence in the 80s. Everyone on some level wondered if today was the day. This would finally be it. The fear was like the air pollution of that era, everywhere, inescapable. Even though everyone knew about it, no one seemed to be able to do anything about it. Come to think about it, all that pollution might be why everything looks so golden. That acid rain sure made for a pretty sunset. I digress again. Don't say it, Brother Daniel.
Me? Never!
Optimism was fake. Fear was just across the ocean, and the whole peace and love thing had been replaced by cynical consumerism. Peace is all very well, but it's not like you can stick it on a lunchbox and sell it to kids. Love moves mountains, but Ghostbusters move merchandise, baby. Automation was great, but job losses were mounting. Manufacturing was all moving abroad. Pensions were getting raided, and as Scarface reminded us, the Pablo Escobars of this world were living it up. We, the average everyday people, were told that all this was for the greater good. Michael Douglas won an Oscar for Best Performance that the Academy missed the whole point of for declaring that greed, for want of a better word, is good. The message was loud and clear. All these advances made for cheaper goods and fewer working hours. More nukes would give us peace through strength, so enjoy it. Grab all you can, swallow all you can stomach, and come back for more tomorrow. Same time, same channel. And if the rampant excess and soulless existence gets to be too much for you, fuck it. Live it up. We're all going to die in nuclear fire any day now, so who cares? Naturally, this atmosphere of fatalism found its way into the movies, and the movies gave us the glorious era of the post-apocalypse. Sure, we'd seen the idea play out before in cinema, but it had always been so dull and grim, and most importantly, a very bad thing. The movies of the 80s had the balls to say, we'll get what we deserve, then screw it, the world ain't so great anyway, so may as well strap on a hockey mask and raid the wasteland. The actual form the apocalypse would take fell into a few broad categories. Mad Max, the Road Warrior, kicked off the end times by reminding us that, hey, one day oil will run out, cars will halt, all of this stuff around us will just go away. The dread of the Road Warrior isn't just the idea that given half a chance your neighbors will dress up in homemade armor, weld spikes onto their cars, and run rampant. It's the inevitability of it all. Oil is not infinite. One day the stuff we're all depending on for our cushy existence will simply be finished. Mad Max isn't just a prediction. It's the inevitable period at the end of a sentence we're all reading. Unless we still have bicycles after the end of the world, then I guess it won't be so bad, but that's crazy talk. And 2015's 80s post-apocalypse nostalgia movie Turbo Kid showed us what that would look like, so we're fucked either way. Then, the Terminator seemed to come out of nowhere and immediately took over the landscape, making the arrival of movie mastermind James Cameron and human Humvee Arnold Schwarzenegger two figures who would absolutely crush the living breath out of all opposition the movie decade to come. We were all familiar with the idea of nuclear Armageddon. Planet of the Apes had suggested we're going to blow it all up, damn us all to hell, way back in 1968. But this wasn't some far-flung future. This was the end of the world beginning now, tonight. The technological terror of Skynet was, we imagined, being built right now somewhere under the Pentagon, and the Terminator itself storming through the streets of current-day LA brought the fear right home. We were heading for nuclear Armageddon, all right, but Armageddon was also heading right back to us. The other big theme in apocalypse movies is the idea of social breakdown. Things might go wrong not because we're too aggressive or too powerful, but simply because we're no longer smart enough and kind enough to keep control of ourselves. Social breakdown was a real threat. Remember all those job losses going on? Detroit remembers. RoboCop came at us with a sizzling near-future view of an America that just doesn't give a damn anymore. Nuke some countries, kick the poor onto the streets, kill a few cops, bring a cop back from the dead in order to kick the poor around some more. None of it mattered as long as the dollar bills kept coming one at a time. RoboCop was a horrifying look at how we might end up living, but more importantly, it was about who we might become if we don't stop and take a long, hard look at ourselves. We don't necessarily need nuclear missiles if we tear our own society apart by hand. Blade Runner took the idea of social breakdown and collapse even further, with Earth that is polluted beyond all measures of fixing it, and a social structure so broken that you're either cops or you're little people. In the distant future of 2016, there's barely any difference between the people and the products anymore, and if Blade Runners can retire you on a whim, does it even make a difference anymore? Replicants want more life, but for what? The world is a sack of crap that's going nowhere. Blade Runner was a gorgeous vision of the future with effects and cinematography like nothing we'd seen before, but the future sure wasn't a place you'd want to go live. Even the luxury queer space communism of Star Trek The Next Generation was built on the foundation of nuclear war. Its pilot, which first aired in 1987, treated the prospect of nuclear Armageddon as inevitable. If the 80s were like that first sip of champagne on a summer night, they also promised one hell of a hangover to come the next day. Maybe we'd never had it so good, but that also meant we'd never before had so much to lose. We all knew it. Politicians knew it. The newspapers knew it. That big red button was waiting to be pushed, and it was just a matter of time. So what to do about it? And how to keep the good times rolling? The answer was simple, as usual. If the public won't accept the fear of nuclear annihilation for free, then sell it to them wholesale. The nihilism and panic needed somewhere to go, and there had to be a place for us to put it, all as a society, and the movies were the perfect warehouse for everything we were afraid of. We could buy a ticket and munch our popcorn while watching everything burn, forever, and somehow the fact that we paid for the privilege made that better. Better than sitting at home, alone, staring at a wall, thinking about it. Oh, no, don't start to think about it. So we didn't. And then the unthinkable happened. We survived. The 90s saw the end of the Cold War and a temporary reprieve to the fears over nuclear holocaust, but that just meant the shape and cause of the apocalypse we feared changed. That decade, when it wasn't showing us cyberpunk dystopias or genotech run amok, was all about alien invasion and extinction-level asteroid strikes, or volcanoes erupting in the middle of LA for some geologically laughable theory. Oh, and then there was also Waterworld, which was basically the Road Warrior, but on boats. The 2000s, though? That's when we saw the fears over nukes return. The USSR wasn't concerned then. Now it was terrorists with loose nukes and dirty bombs, all set on a 24-hour timer. But that was just a plot, not anything that was civilization. The real apocalypse of the 2000s was the zombie apocalypse. Why? How? When? The causes were various, but it didn't really matter. Zombies were the perfect enemy. Ragged, mindless shells living just outside the boundaries of civilization, grasping for what's yours. I'm sure that has no clue to me. Certainly nothing about hoarding wealth or immigrants or the unhoused. No, don't think about that. Media about the survivors of the zombie apocalypse had a long run, beginning in 2003 with 28 Days Later, and it's still going strong in 2025 with hit series like The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and The Last of Us.
You forgot to mention George A. Romero's Dead trilogy. Now, Night of the Living Dead was released in 1968, but more to your point, Dawn of the Dead, 1978, was the first movie ever to show the start of a zombie apocalypse and was on the threshold of the 80s. Even more to your point, Day of the Dead, released in 1985, which was the first zombie post-apocalypse movie. Everyone is living in the underground bunkers, experimenting on the living dead, and it's set in Florida. Fuck. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more potent combination of the Florida fuckery, siege mentality, and unvarnished nihilism that typified the 80s more so than Day of the Dead.
And then, of course, there's that postmodern, post-apocalypse pastiche, Fallout. I could go into detail, but, well, at this point, you've got all the pieces, and you can put them together yourself. In the end, post-apocalypticism was never about the actual apocalypse, because the useful thing about the apocalypse is that it's always tomorrow. Why bother saving money? Why not just live on credit? What's the point of political activism or social engagement? It's all going to burn any day anyhow, so nothing matters. And surely you'll be one of the lucky survivors, striding the wasteland in your cool handmade leather spike armor, your trusty AR-15 at your side. Yeah. This has been another Cinemania Field Report, available where you might find quality podcasts. This episode is written by Ethan Ireland and Andy Slack, and was performed by Ethan Ireland. Music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Music courtesy of Epidemic Sound.